Right, there we go. And now we going. Rocking, rolling, smolin', waiting for my phone screen to catch up to show the stream. I attached it to the right stream, didn't I? There it is. Okay. Okie dokie then. Apologies. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was actually streaming. I can now see the bunny on my phone, which means we are going. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, May. It's actually May, and I'm streaming the May stream. It's a miracle. It took this long, and we're going to be finally caught up. What this will mean is I am slightly changing the schedule. I'm going to be streaming at the end of the month instead of the start. I've got a Patreon update, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue. Oh, it just sort of means that typical people wanted to start to talk to me as I start streaming. Yeah, it'll just mean streaming at the end of the month instead of the start. It shouldn't really change the schedule too much. I'm still on track to get everything done and dozy in time for the end of the year. The list may change. I'm trialing a couple of units when I next can, just because the current list it's got a lot of anti-vehicle, and the meta is shifting a little less from just shit vehicles out because they're hard to deal with to okay, this is how we use our infantry and weaker stuff, or so might be swapping some things, maybe some melter rifles for some more bullets and flames, but we'll see. Like I say, trialing it in a game at some point, and any list adjustments that are final will be shared if relevant. I mean, the things I'd be swapping out to units have not painted yet. But speaking of units that we're painting, and let me just turn my lamp on. I might need to actually adjust this lamp in a moment because the switch dock might not have enough power. Got myself a new USB LED LAMP. And it's not bad. It's just only USB powered, which is a pain. But yes, here are the three guys that were doing this stream. I would go get the chaplain and the lieutenant that I did actually finish from last stream. I forgot. I can't be bothered. I've already delayed this stream enough. And that's rude to myself. And now dropping a die. We'll have to get that back in a second. Oh, I know, I heard it. We'll get it after the stream. So, we have in front of us Apothecary Biologus, Sanguinary Priest with Jetpack, Jump Pack, Captain with Jump Pack. So, yeah, doing it like last stream. Only really focusing on two for the actual stream itself. We've got three and painting the third one in the background. So let's find out what we're painting. 1, 2, 3. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is a 5. So, Sanguinary Priest is getting the attention. And then Captain or Apothecary Biologus. That is a 4. So, Captain. So, it's a jump pack centric day. Apothecary Biologus will be done in his own time. So, let us get things set up for that. The Captain is quite a tall model, what with him having a very long tactical rock to be protruding on. And then the Sanguinary Priest will get himself mounted. Let's adjust our camera now. I always forget how I do this every single time. Is that enough? I don't know. Where do we want to start? Do we want to be painted? Let's start with the white because I'll be less concerned about contaminating the color. And with that, let's adjust our focus It's because I do not trust autofocus. And then we'll actually get started. How's that sound? So autofocus does that. Even worse. Ooh, hold on. We had it there. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. So, as you might notice, I've already done the boring basic stuff. He is base coated. He's given a layer of contrast just to define the white areas. I've basically blocked out any silver areas, now have some black just to help layer it. I kind of just put the purple over the cup. I was bored one day, so I just watered down some burgundy and just slapped it on. So yeah, where to start? Outside, inside out, starting from the deepest part and going out. So armor, robes. That's actually the majority of the model. And now let me just get myself situated. Oh, there's the die that I dropped. Wonderful. That's one less thing to remember. Yeah, and just be a quick moment. Ooh, I need to move my bed slightly. There is not enough space for my knees. There we go. Those are important, especially in my advanced age. Okay. All right. So shaky, shaky, shaky. Gonna be rebasing bits of him with the same color that I based him with, Wolf One White. Not the most efficient, but I've not found a better way to do white yet that looks good. So, sucks to be me. Just gonna quickly clean my brush just to make sure, because I've been using some very strongly pigmented paints recently. Just a little something I'm working on the side. In fact, I might as well show that off for a moment to talk about it because it's been an interesting experiment. Oh yeah, I can see there's the tiniest bits of green still coming off. So, screw it, I'll just mention it now. So I have been working on a little bit of something for a friend, revitalizing his Dark Angels, which means we've got a lion, and it has been quite interesting experimenting with his armor. I've only really done like the bust area so far, so like chest, face, and that hip plate. But honestly, I'm really liking how he's coming along already. I'm going for quite a cool green on the armor so far. Going to highlight it a little further. It's almost looking non-metallic, but the leg under the cowling, just back there, I'll probably leave dark actually, and then it's mostly just a shin and his backpack, and then some extra highlights with the sanguinary priest spinning around at the same time. But honestly, yeah, cool green. It looks a lot more saturated in person, and then I've got a warm green on the actual cloak. That's the actual like Caliban green you would expect for a Dark Angel. So like going for a nice cooler green. It feels like a bit of a reference to the old Legion colors without actually just making his armor super dark. But yeah, back to our priest. So the elf one, just got some of that on the palette now that my brush is clean and damp. And we'll need a tiny bit of this later for the captain if I get to his cape, because I do his cape. Well, I do my Lamenter's cloth and cape in white. And you in focus there, buddy? Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Ah, so yeah. There's not really anyone here yet, so I don't really know what to talk about. Oh well. I'll talk about this guy himself because I've pretty much been using him constantly in games. He is definitely a worthwhile character to take if you've got the right jump pack unit, or well, I imagine even a regular one in a foot slogging marine unit is still quite good. The old here's an extra pip of AP. Here's a feel no pain. And just what is it? I think it's a 5-up feel no pain, which is a lot better than it sounds. It's like, oh, okay, you've rolled to hit, Walter Wound, roll for your armor, if presuming you get one, and then you feel no pain against each wound you would take individually, not like the shot. So he can reduce damage by quite a bit just having that extra little barrier after all the normal rolls. And putting him in my 10-man squad of jump intercessors has so far proven pretty successful. He has kept the unit quite durable. They usually end up getting wiped out in the end, but they usually make sure they've taken out quite a bit before that, which is what you would want from your medic, really. So yeah, quite happy with him. Even the 10-point increase from 90 to 100 points is that was like shrug. Okay, sure. I don't care. I'm still using him. He's still good at 100. Some of the biggest names in certain chapters are like 90 to 75 points, and you make this guy 100 points. It's like, yeah, I'll still take him. I don't care. Let me have my priest. Let's try and feather this a little bit. I'm trying to get a little bit of a gradient after the roundness of the actual shoulder pad. I do need to retouch up some bits of this because a little bit of the yellow from doing the trim of the shoulder pad there did leak on. Under normal circumstances, not too much of an issue. On white, whoops, that'll need some fixing. Yeah, chop chop. This will need a couple of layers, just because like Wolf One being a light color doesn't have the strongest coverage, but also like we tend to water it down maybe a little too much. Well, I wouldn't say too much actually. Now that's not correct. Scribble, ribble, ribble. Yeah, there's none around so far yet. So I presume that one viewer that's showing up on my phone is my phone that I'm using to look at the chat. So will not trust that number. Sometimes it be like that. People just are busy, so you're just plucking away in the darkness on your own. Oh well, it's on record that I have done this. That's the whole point of these streams. In all fairness, it's just like thing to keep me true to this goal. And so far it's worked. It's been annoying having to catch up after the delays from work, but with this stream, that delay should finally be dealt with. I can just go back to streaming once a month instead of every couple of weeks. Well, speaking of work, still considering my options, but that's personal stuff. I doubt anyone wants to hear that. At least not while I'm trying to chill. And just get a little bit of painting done. Got things I want to do. And just sort of need to figure out how it is I want to do them. Yeah, a little bit more later. But we don't need to do a massive amount of this white on this sort of more fluted armor on his leg. Yeah, just a little bit to to imply the volume that's there. Man, I'm really liking that focal length actually. That's crisper than usual. I did a good job today. I usually have to reset up everything every time, and it's always a little weird. So yeah, this is just reapplying a base coat practically, and then I'll do some edge highlighting with a white later. It's not the highest contrast, but I mean, it's white. You're kind of limited what you could do. I'm debating what to do with the little ribs under his chest there, because on a Judicia you do paint those like bone, but that's like a bone detail on next to black armor, so it pops quite a bit. But on this guy, I don't really think it would suit. I'm also still no, we'll still do this shoulder pad white. I say as I'm painting it white, but white's pretty easy to cover. Half debating, do I paint it red? Because it does have the Blood Angel symbol on it. Like, no, this guy is still a Lamenter. I just use that to mark him out as like a more specialist unit. So yeah, we'll tidy up the white on this guy, and then we'll. I think I'll base coat the cloak because I want to get some of the burgundy I've got for that on, and then we'll hop over to the yellows on the captain. Just build up the main chunks. Yeah, just that second layer, quite a messy one on there. On that shoulder pad just really just helps push the volume just a little bit. Makes the shape actually show. I did announce this one pretty short notice just because this has been a busy month. It's been my birth month, and it's the birth month of quite a few, quite a few of my friends and my nephew as well. So May just ends up being a busy month. Hey, we got a Ryan. How do? You've not missed a whole lot. Just me randomly rolling to paint this guy and painting white armor on a priest. Who would have thought it? Yeah, been a busy month. Been a busy couple weekends, but it's been good. The actual, I won't say my actual birthday on stream just because you never know who's watching, or well, the VODs at least. But like the actual day itself, kind of naff. But little help from friends. It's actually felt like a birthday. So that's been quite nice. It was needed, very needed. The Discord messages are coming through on my phone now all at once. Was good to oh, you've gotten yourself some food while else out. Fair enough. Couldn't say I blame you. Well, it's just been. It's not been much of a day to day, but that's something I've needed. Uh, just a realization that it's back to work soonish, sooner rather than I would like, but that's every day. Yeah, yeah. I'm just going to ignore that little seam that is actually present on that jump back. Just that was more my misassembly. I think I forget. Yeah, it doesn't show up on the captain. So we'll just pretend that seam doesn't exist. And the back of the actual turbines. Just this little chunk here. Just this little chunky. Make that cylinder a cylinder. Make this semisphere look a little bit more semi-spherical. I'm feeling kind of sleepy, which is weird because I actually slept more today. I actually slept the full 8 hmm, rather than the 6 or 7 I would usually get. And now I feel tired. It's annoying. I've only been up 6 hours. I work nights. 8 o'clock is early. It's basically the afternoon for me. Yeah, let's just get this gauntlet here. Just a little bit, because that hand is actually quite prominent with this pose. And then we shall line the fingies. I might need to just put a little bit more of this Ulf on the palette, just to thicken it up, honestly. Like, it's just taking a little bit more than I would like to layer up. It do be an EP candidate. Yeah, it really does. Like, it's been cloudy, there's been some rain. It's been warm and rainy, so that's just like, yeah, that is just a sleepy kind of day, ain't it? Yeah, we got some more Ulf. Sugar, sugar, sugar. Especially when we're in that time of year where the weather here in this country, it cannot decide whether it wants to be sunny or rainy. It'll be warm, but That's the only thing it can promise you. So you can have some really gorgeous days, and then it'll just be bleh for a bit, and then you just sort of stuck. It feels like autumn, but the air feels springy still. I just wanted to be sunny. Just give me the light. That's all I'm after. Right. And the borders between these sections will ease up as it dries. But yeah, as I was saying before, you arrived right, and thankfully with this stream, we're now finally all caught up. This is the actual May stream for May happening at the end of May. Just debating. Well, I say debating now. I've decided I'm going to be doing the streams at the end of the month instead of the start, just to just to compensate for having to have caught up over these past 6 weeks pretty regularly. So that should make things a little easy. Though I say that, I realise end of July I'm going to be going away with my family for a week, so I might just do a slightly earlier stream. Not in the middle of July, but not closer to the middle than the end, depending on my time off. But I think that'll be needed by that time. Yeah, it's just been a sleepy Tuesday. It is Tuesday. I had to double check then. Yeah, end of the month feels right. Yeah, like I say, it'll be easier to show off the wins of the month. Like I finished off that like well, you were in the chat where I shared it off, right? I finished off the chaplain and the lieutenant pretty quickly after the stream the last couple of weeks ago. Going to Japan at the end of July, so it ends up nice. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, we'll both be on holiday at the same time. Just I'll be a lot closer to home. I forgot when your holiday to Japan was. Yeah, yeah, that works. Yeah, like I say, I finished the characters from the last stream off not too long after the actual stream. I paint characters very quickly. When I can just focus on the one guy, I can zap through it, which is quite nice. So I've just been painting other stuff in the meantime. Got a chunk of orc stuff done. Well, I say done. Either started or done. Finished off a custom booster blaster, which is a funny orc car. Got some base coats down on a piratey beast boss because my orcs are slightly piratey themed. It's going to be slightly speed freak themed with the new codex. There we go. I just need to get the other vehicles to actually get the speed freaks up and running. Not a massive priority. Yeah, I've been making good head. Yeah, no, it's felt good. Like I say, been doing these streams to keep myself committed. Uh, um, but yeah, what are the other wins? The orc stuff. I did finish off a couple of models that I didn't need done until August because they're going to be part of a competition I'm entering in August. But one's a Necron and one have been started pretty much at the start of the year as well, alongside this project. Which I checked, it's actually a legal loadout, so I could run the guy in my army. And I'm half tempted to enter the Land Raider as well because there is a vehicle category. This isn't Golden Demon like this. This is a local one. But like if it's something I've already painted and it applies for a category I've not entered something yet, yeah, it's worth considering giving that a spin. I'll just have to tidy up the Land Raider because some of the freehanding is still a little untidy on that. Untidy is fine for the table. If it's a competition piece that a lot of people are going to be looking at, I might clean up the lines. Yeah. Okay. I think that's the base coat for that white pretty much done. I won't bother edge highlighting. I just want to get the other colours blocked in, whilst I also have a sippy sip. Hmm, I needed that. What is this good doing? People talking, people talking, people talking. Okay, nothing crazy. What next? Yes, I said the cloak working inside out, so I'll need you. I'll get those ready for when I do finish them up. So, yellow army, we've got a doctor in white armor, so let's do his cloak purple, or at least wine. Bit of Baraknar burgundy. Should give him a nice bit of contrast. Normally, sanguinary priests wear bright red robes and, like, I don't know, huge letterbox saturated colors like that on cloth. Even in real life, doesn't appeal to me. There's something about it that looks cheap. So something a bit more subdued will do the job here, methinks. Yeah. As said when I first showed this guy off the last stream, this is based off of the Judicia model from the Indomitus box set. I just swapped out some parts and slapped on a jump pack, called him Priest. And you know what? No one's complained, even with the slightly larger base size, because these things technically need to be on 30, well, the packaged 32mm in the official model, but this guy's on 40, and like literally no one cares. I do have a normal sanguinary priest around in the eventuality it could happen, but it hasn't. People I play with, for the most part, are pretty chill. As long as we know what we're looking at, there can be slight discrepancies, whatever. The only time that base size, to be thinking about it, the base size, it only really affects piling in and melee, and even then, this guy probably isn't going to be at the front. All this guy has is a chainsaw. He makes everyone else's chainsaws better. So he can stay at the back and stay alive. Yeah, it's a nice color coming in. It will brighten up as I add more layers, but for now, this even watered down into practically a wash just looks nice. Right, yeah, there's that WWE looking ass belt as well to consider. That'll probably just be gold. Just lean to the fact it looks a wrestling bet. So what does he do exactly? Is he a morale booster? A sanguinary priest. He is kind of a morale booster. He's also a medic. So like he gives the unit a feel no pain because he's a medic. He keeps them on their feet. He keeps them up and punching. But also, right, he's a Blood Angel specific guy. So as the name of both the Blood Angels and him would imply, there's blood stuff involved. That's why he's got the Grail on him. Sanguinary priests are fucking weird. Wherein that Grail is meant to technically have Sanguinius's blood in it, and having that nearby is sort of a morale booster for Blood Angels, because like that little bit of dad that's been dead for 10,000 years has still been carried around by them. But you might ask the question, how the hell do you keep the blood of a guy that's been dead for 10,000 years? Yeah, big sippy cup. How do you keep the blood of a guy that's been dead for around 10,000 years fresh? The answer is, then this is why sanguinary priests are their own role. The sanguinary priest will take some of the blood from the cup and they'll inject it into themselves and they'll just have it flow around in their system. Like this guy right now, he has a cup with some of it in. He's probably also got some in his blood when he's on the battlefield being a sanguinary priest that's deployed. And then after it's been flowing around in his circulation for a while, he'll just let some of his own blood out back into the cup. So it's kind of a Ship of Theseus situation where, like, yes, it is Sanguinius's blood, but also it's been mixed with this guy's own blood for a while. And then you've got the like chain effect of then someone else later on is going to put some of the blood from his cup into themselves, circulate it around, let it back out. Yeah, he's basically a host, but so like it becomes questionable over time just how much of that blood is Sanguinius's. Like, how much does it matter? Is it a symbolic thing, or does it actually need to be his blood? Because so far, it still seems to have the same psychological effect, despite the fact that you could very much argue, after 10,000 years of playing a musical circulatory system, it's probably not Sanguinius's blood in there anymore. But it's best not to ask these questions. But yeah, having that blood nearby boosts morale. Gameplay wise, he gives a defensive boost and giving the unit feel no pain. And he gives the melee attacks of the unit he's attached to an extra pip of armor penetration. So with my guy of chainsaw wielding guys, it goes from armor pen 2 to armor pen 1 to armor pen 2. That's my favorite circulatory system. Go. And then he's also just an extra body. Like, he has a chainsaw himself, so he can take a couple of swings at a fight. He's not great at fighting. He's better than an average guy, but he's not great. But for 100 points, he's still worth it. Like, he was originally 90 points for the jetpack version, and the Inbalance update, he's one of the units that actually got a point increase because of how popular he was. And you know what? He's still worth it. He's more expensive than the captain. He's still worth it. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else he does? I don't think so. Because I usually forget about the AP half the time. But that's usually because, like, this I've got with the unit he's in, it's the captain that we're going to be painting alongside this guy. 10 jump pack guys, which have like 4 or 5 attacks each on the charge. Usually the AP doesn't matter. By the time we're rolling for armor saves, there's that many they have to take. Like, we still roll for it, but it's like, oh wow, that is a lot of armor saves for you to take. It's like, yeah, well, here goes. 25 ups. Just having to hold this at a weird angle just to get a little bit of the inside of the loop. I might need to get a smaller brush for that. No, we're good. We're good. Got. I'll have to get it for the tightest part of the corner. Yeah. Oh, I did get that as well. Hold on. Wet my brush and give it a scrub. There we go. Basically like an eraser. Also, my lamp has stayed on. I'm too used to it just turning itself off. Maybe I pressed the button right this time. Debating if I even tried to get at the back of his cloak. I say as I start doing it. Thankfully, this shouldn't need any subsequent layers. I'm just going to paint it with the darkest shade and call it a day. There's some angles where I can just see the tiniest sliver of the white still. That's some on his shin. Don't need a lot of water, just need enough to scrub. There we go. There's a little bit going up the side of his chest there. I'm just going to switch to a smaller brush for that. But I quite like him. I've always liked Sanguinary Priests. I've yet to play an edition with Blood Angels where they're not at least useful. And I keep saying we're going to have a campaign. It's taking a little while to get it off the ground. Originally, it was me, and then it's other people having delays. So we'll see where that happens. But if in this theoretical campaign, my actual Sanguinary Priest is technically my Warlord, just because I've got, well, it's actually a bit of lore that's Lamenta specific, not just not Blood Angels, where like they have something called the Calyx, which is literally the apothecaries and sanguinary priests of the chapter have been assigned the role of, okay, if there's no one who would normally be in command around to be in command, like a captain, maybe a lieutenant, then you guys, you were the ones in charge. And literally the ones that are in charge of the apothecarium, which is like the collection of the apothecaries and other medics in the chapter, are just sort of like, okay, well, I guess this chapter itself has taken such a beating in before, where we've gone through eras where we've not had a captain or someone who would normally take command. We've been waiting for someone who's actually like suited for the role to take the role. So in that time, I guess the medics are going to be in charge. Which for a chapter that has taken a good kicking in the past, it kind of does make sense the more we think about it. Right, that is also part of the robe on the inside there. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Soon we'll be able to start with the second coat of that, just to make it a more solid colour. But that is burgundy itself at least blocked out. It will get brighter. It's fabric. Yeah, it is quite cool. Like I say, the on the Judicia, that is the original base model of this. The arm that doesn't have the robe, which is why I've got the cup on this guy, he's got like a huge executioner's sword that he's like resting on his shoulder, and like the logic being like he took the sleeve off of that side just to make it easier to swing around this massive sword. Judicias are quite cool models as well, but the robe is just perfect to translate into a Sanguinary Priest too. Man, the lighting here is quite blue. I've still got a little bit of daylight leaking through, is what that is, to be fair. That's where some of the blue is. And then the LED lamp is. It tries to be temperature neutral. It does that by having a mix of warm and cool LEDs. Right. Do we? I mean, that's drying fairly okay. Still got that little sliver of his actual leg peeking through the back of the robe. Uh, that is the main block. I'll let that dry. And we'll get a little bit done on old Capitan as well. This guy is a lot of fun. Again, attaches to the same unit because you can have a priest, you can have a sanguinary priest and a captain attached to the same unit at the same time. Like literally the rules say so. And this guy doesn't really benefit from the extra AP having big hammer, but like he's got he's a captain. He's already kind of chunky. I like giving him the upgrade that gives him a 2+ armor save. He's got a storm shield, so he's got an extra wound on top of having a built-in invulnerable save. Having these guys in the same unit, this guy takes a long time to kill. Usually by the time he's dead, it's because he's running around on his own. Like once the rest of the unit's dead, these two guys are just left standing there like, oh, well, what next? Alright, see you later. I'll just have them both go off and is going to be tied up for a while, and if they run away, running. Oh, you're disconnected, reconnecting. I'll be back. Right, we're back. My connection dropped for a quick second just there. Just give it a moment. Just give it a moment. There we go. We're back on the actual screen. Yeah, OPS told me about that one. Thank you for the heads up there, Ryan. But yeah, but yeah, like I say, as I was saying, by the time this guy is actually vulnerable, he's probably flying off and being a nuisance, just charging something he probably won't kill, but he can keep occupied for a few turns. It's like, just stay here, because you're not going to kill me anytime soon. And if you try and run away, I fly. Good luck. Just gotta chase you down again. Oh, now my lamp switch is off. Come on. You can do it, lamp. There we go. Right, about 40 minutes before it turns itself off, usually. Noted. I suppose this is what happens when you're playing with your toys on camera. Yeah. Yeah, but I quite like both of these models, so it's nice to actually get started on painting them. I'm debating what to do next. Like I say, the list might change. I've got a ball predator and some aggressors to try out to give myself a little bit more against anti-horde, but they're not 100% in the list just yet. Just that they're being considered, and I have figured out an alternate list if I do try, they are permanent. It's like vehicles are a little. It's the rock paper scissors side of it. Well, like people played vehicles because they were big and chunky, so people ran more anti-tank, so people ran fewer tanks. So now people are like, oh shit, I have to deal with masses of infantry now. I need to change up what I'm doing. It's that cat and mouse game. Yeah, both are dope. Yeah, these are the kinds of Space Marines I like. Still insulting being accidentally seen as an Imperial Fist. Sometimes it's like, do you see a bolter anywhere on this army? I am not an Imperial Fist. Leave me alone. I've got love hearts, damn it. I guess I'm just working down from the head. So let's do that. Uh, let's move him a little bit closer to the camera so we actually have a chance to be in focus, eh? The trim of the shoulder pad. It's also nice to actually get these painted because I've had at least this guy himself since about October when the jump pack stuff came out, which was a godsend for me. So God, not allow the lamps stay on. Yeah, the meta constantly does sort of shift about. It's both. How do I word it? It is the fact of keeping up sometimes, but it's a combination of the meta shifting just from like checks and balances, and also like how to word it, new rules being released, like armies being updated. Suddenly, certain factions having more options. You've got to take into account like how do you play against this? If this is good enough to be popular, you've got to be prepared to account for it. And sometimes, okay, the lamp is just on 1 minute mode apparently now. But yeah, you've got to be able to account for what people are going to throw at you. And thankfully, as much as killing is a part of the game, like taking out units, it's not essential. Like you can leave units alive, and the major downside is more is it gives your opponent more opportunities more than you're denying yourself anything. Like uh, there's only one or two things you score from killing stuff. So it's less of a priority. It's still good to do. It's just less fundamental to your win. Like sometimes you can just taking out a couple of models from a unit can be enough because objective control being based around the number of models and the OC of all of those models. Like yeah, you add up the collective OC of the models on the objective. You could just kill some, and that'll be enough. It's just like, okay, your OC is 4 because you've got 4 guys. My OC is 7 because I've got 7 guys on it. Or like a battle line unit where most battle line units have OC2 per model. It's like, okay, you've got an OC6 because you've got OC20 just from having 10 guys there. I've got OC10 from 10 guys. Well, I've got OC like 12 or something, say, from the unit that these guys are attached to. Just charge in the battle line. You need to get rid of like a couple of models just to change the OC in your favor. You just give them a go all wallop. Yeah, it's mostly fair in terms of play. Just boost your chances of winning if anything. Yeah, it helps. Yeah, it is like as much as it is the devil game. It is like League of Legends. Killing isn't going to win you the game. It just changes the opportunities you and your opponent have. Like having it's only really like in the extremes or in the minutia that the kills matter. Like, oh, you didn't kill that one in that one fight where like they got dragon or something. It's like, oh, and that one dragon's what tilted the game, isn't it? I'm sure. Or like if there's just one person ruffle stomping around, it's like, okay, well, this is going to be difficult. But he is still just one guy. It makes the game more tactical too, because like you actually have to keep positioning in mind. Like it sucks if you lose units, especially in certain armies, but it's not a death sentence. Yeah, oh no, yeah, do the little cross. I mentioned League of Legends. Never compared it to League of Yeah, filtering League of Legends through Warhammer stuff is how I learned the game. And then we got okay at it very briefly, and then we decided it wasn't worth playing. At least, unless we could make a complete team and have an entire evening and keep our cool, then that's just too much to ask. Let's just go play Lethal Company or something. Or Command and Conquer at this point. Well, I like where the game is currently. Like the rules of 10th edition so far. It's basically been a year. Like in a month or two, it'll have been a year of this edition, and like I still vastly bleh, 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 prefer it. There we go. I can say the word. Vastly prefer it to ninth. Like ninth was by the time I actually got the chance to play it was bloated and confusing, and you can tell they gave up at a certain point. Where it's like, okay, well we know we've got tenth around the corner. Just throw out the Votan and the guard. Have them be overpowered. I don't care. And they've not done the weird seasonal book for this edition, which I really didn't like last edition. It was just like, okay, this season, if you want the rules updates for this competitive season that people are going to abide to for pickup games just because it's the easiest thing to do, here it is, it'll last for 6 months. It's like, I'm not buying that. I'm not learning that. You get the League Inkling every now and again. Yeah, it's not even anything to do with the gameplay. It's just like when you do well, it does feel really good. Just that little loop, and that is part of the danger, really, isn't it? Because like the way this lamp, at least that was longer than a minute. I might just need to plug it into my laptop in a second. Hold on. I'll discuss the league thing whilst I plug my lamp in. Well, like, well, it's less a league thing and more of a rank thing. Like, say you're playing ranked, you've given yourself that poison, and you get to a point where you are pretty close to playing against people of your skill level. The point of ranked. At that point, you are kind of gambling. Uh, If you think about it, because you know, you and an equally skilled opponent, especially in a team game where you can't control the other 9 people in the game. There we go. Lamp, stay upright, please. There we go. Yeah, especially at a team game where you can't control the other 9 people involved. A win against an equally skilled opponent is basically up to chance. It's like, it makes sense, You're both equally skilled. It feels like a 50-50. At least it should be considered a 50-50. And then, say you're playing ranked, you think, okay, I lost that one. Let's give it another go. Let's play another one. Still a 50-50 that you're going to lose. It's basically its own sort of Skinner box. Like, As much as people would not like to admit, how would I word this? A game like Warhammer, well, any game, there's the tactical choices and then there's the execution. Tactical choices being where you move, planning your army, in this game at least, and where you direct your damage, things like that. The actual choices that you make. And then the execution in this game is completely random because it's based on dice. You can control what you need to roll to increase your odds and decrease your opponent's odds and things like that, but it is still up to the dice. Now, in my mindset, in say something like League of Legends, the execution is like mechanically actually doing the thing in the same environment where your opponent is also mechanically doing the thing, whatever the game is requiring from you at that point, or what you've decided that you're doing. And again, against an equally skilled opponent, that's random in my mind. Like you can have the ability, you can be pretty confident in what you're doing. But if both you and your opponent are both in that situation where you both know what you're doing and you're both able to execute it, and ignoring like any variables from tactical choices, it's going to be random if both of your opponents, you and your opponent, are as equally skilled. At least that's my perspective. Like it may as well be like either from you making a mistake, like you press a button at just the wrong time, or your opponent does the same, or like there's just a variable for something you didn't account for, like an opponent's ally being nearby, which is nothing that you can guarantee. Wards will give you, in like League of Legends, wards will give you vision, but you've got to put them down, and your opponent's got to like step inside their field of vision, or not destroy them, or not have them time out. Like the execution is a lot more random than people would like to admit. Like you've got less control against a human player than you would think, unless like there is an actual noticeable skill level difference, or just like in the tactical difference, in the tactical choices, like a pre-game you've picked a character and your opponent just happens to have picked a hard counter, or they predicted you and picked a hard counter, then your execution it matters more, I suppose. It has the chance to do more in the sense that like you can reduce how much of a counter their pick might be. But even then, that comes down to there being a skill gap. And like if a ranked system is working and it's putting you up against someone who is comparatively skilled, shall we say, it might as well be random. So, that's probably why I like games where she's like, okay, just make the tactical choices and let the dice decide for you. This is like, okay, this feels. I'll just think. But I don't know. I'm sure someone could. There'd be someone out there with a good counter argument. Feel what defines knowing what you're doing in this game varies massively depending on what you're playing at. Yeah, no, it completely true. Like the matchup is entirely like not just in the factions but in the builds, especially as like certain armies are a bit more centralized than others. Like say Necrons, if you want to play well, there's two ways to play them really. Or there's like certain units that are practically guaranteed to be picked. And you don't know what you're going to be playing up against when you build your list, at least in like a typical setting. Your opponent might give you the list beforehand and might give, like, it could be a teaching exercise where your opponent has given you their list and say, okay, pick something to counter this. But that's not something you would expect or ever guarantee. So yeah, the matchup is incredibly dependent. Like my list currently, it was why it was one of the changes I was talking about earlier. Is it's got a lot to deal with armor. You know, between the Centurions, the Eradicators, and the Land Raider, and even the Thunderstrike, the little speeder. It has got a lot to deal with vehicles and armor to the point where like it's a bit too much. I should really be dedicating some of that space to infantry stuff because that seems to be where this list is struggling a little bit. Like it'll lose one of those things, and it'll feel like a massive loss because there was so many points condensed into that one or two models. When I could spread it around a little bit more, or have something that would like punch up against mass infantry a little better, because the same can apply to your opponent too. And there's a lot of variables. I never know if it's good to tell people what you people play. Like I'm saying, I play Tyranids, and then the other person has that info to counter it. Well, let's think Tyranids. That's a good example, right? You say you play Tyranids. What detachment? Is it the Hordy one? Is it the monster one? Is it like the weird digestion-y processor themed one? Like you say Tyranids, that could be a few things. Like I could bring a bunch of amphi-infantry against Tyranids, and you show up with nothing but Carnifexes and fucking what's the big the Morlocks and the Hive Tyrants. And like, oh, okay, these Flamers do very little in this situation, but that would be like hard matchup. That would be like trying to hard counter a specific list, and then not playing against that list. Which in that point, that would just be like your opponent's mistake. It is a little different with Space Marines, I suppose, because like practically everything that has legs that isn't a dreadnought is going to be like toughness 4, 2 or 3 wounds a model. So there are some like you look at a gun and you see it's got like AP 2 or 3 and damage 2. Okay, it can kill a Space Marine pretty easily. Then depends on the number of shots. But even then, there's a Space Marine detachment that gives you bonuses for vehicles. There's a Space Marine detachment that gets you a lot of tactical moving in the Vanguard Spearhead that I've been trying out a little bit. There's the Gladius one that gives you modal stuff. That is something I have liked with the detachment system. These lists, these specific builds for these armies already existed. Like they were just thematic. Like the Iron Hands would just run a bunch of vehicles. It's the Iron Hands. But like you've now been given a mechanical reason to do it outside of maybe a character that gives you a bonus for certain things. Like you got the different stratagems and the actual detachment rules that incentivize you to play in specific ways. And as long as those attachments are fairly balanced, then it's kind of hard to just hard counter off of just saying like, "Oh, I play Space Marines." It's like, to be fair, the only example is like I play demons and they bring Grey Knights as the counter. That's less of a thing now, thankfully. Like Grey Knights aren't running around with I have a bunch of stuff that hurts specifically demons anymore. They're a bit more general. Like the design philosophy has become a little less of a feels bad. Like the Grey Knights, if anything, that they have to counter demons is less of a hard counter of this does more damage against demons and more of okay, we can play the same game as demons because we can jump around just as much as they do. Like it's more of a baked in mechanical answer rather than just it being super effective like a Pokemon move or something. Like the design philosophy has thankfully changed. Like the earlier versions of the game was rife with stuff like that. Like Blood Angels would have a specific character like, oh, your army gets this advantage against orcs. Like, okay, I don't know anyone that plays orcs. Oh. Well, by this one, he gives you a specific counter against chaos. It's like, okay, when do I know I'm playing against chaos? It's a bit of a feels bad. That's good then. It's what put you off building demons. Yeah, no, the game is a lot better for that sort of stuff now, thankfully. Like that was fifth edition era. It made sense in terms of like expressing the in universe stuff mechanically, but yeah, it was just a feels bad gameplay wise because it felt like a weird gotcha. And like making sure every army has a few ways to build means it's hard to just hard counter someone with a specific unit. There are still certain struggles in terms of matchups, but leave that for the armies like Imperial Knights, where it's like, okay, we're nothing but vehicles, nothing but really big vehicles. So if you don't have an answer to a vehicle, you're screwed. If you do have an answer for a vehicle, oh dear. Oh no. Which is why I would only recommend allying in knights instead of having a whole knight army. As fun as a whole army in knights sounds, and I do want to try it one day. Yeah. The fact that counters exist is crazy. That counter existed at all is crazy. Yeah, no, fifth edition was not designed to be competitive in that sense, like a competitively viable game, despite what people tried back then. It it it, it was a game of just expressing the setting via gameplay. I'm bringing orcs. Yeah, I think it was Tycho that gave Blood Angels that advantage against orcs just because he hated them that hard. Okay, and bring a character that counts as orcs. It's like, yeah, exactly. Farsight for Tau used to be the exact same. Like Captain Tycho and Farsight had both fought orcs that often in their like story that they just gave them rules that gave them advantages against orcs. I no longer play orcs. Yeah, that's what it feels like, okay, fine. I guess I'm just not playing these guys then. It can work in certain scenarios. Like say the Blood Angels did used to get a they just had a rule. No, it wasn't that the Blood Angels had the rule. Is it Abaddon himself had a rule? Abaddon was a spoiler. The big War Master of Chaos, running around with the big power claw that Horus used to kill Sanguinius. So, uh, Abaddon himself had a rule that said Blood Angels had advantages against him. Like they would just get that angry that they would just hit harder against him. And against specific characters, not specific factions, I think that sort of stuff can work. Like it's a disadvantage to that character, and if that one character gets popular, then there's a check to them, if that makes sense. And it only matters against that one character, that one unit, rather than the entire faction. That is something I'm okay with. Like when the advantage goes inward like that, rather than it being like, oh, this army gets this advantage against this other army if they bring a one character. Like, no, this one character has a disadvantage against this army if you bring him. That I think works a little better, but that. It's still not as good because, like, again, it can just be the case of like you just happen to have the one friend that plays the faction that your character is disadvantaged against, and it can still be a feel bad. But at that point, it's a choice. It's like, okay, I still get to play my army. I just might not bring this one guy, if you get me. This is me musing out loud. And like, say, Blood Angels, they have a stratagem. I forget the name of it. Where it does give a unit anti-chaos, but it's like you play it more for the lance that it gives, which is re-roll to hits when you charge. The anti-chaos doesn't really come up too often. I mean, when it does, it's nice, but it's a stratagem that you have to selectively spend a resource in your command points to use to get that bonus. Now, against the Chaos Army, it might be a bit of a no-brainer. It's like, okay, I guess I'll have the anti-chaos alongside, and make I think it is Red Rampage, I think, to give me that bonus against this particular army. But it's one unit for one turn, and you spent a point to do it. I think if it's a dual setting, like this character has advantage over this character and vice versa. Yeah, that I kind of like, where you both incentivize to like ram them into each other. It becomes a bit of a game, and at that point, it can kind of become like a tactical thing where, like, okay, if I play better, I get this advantage against your guy. Like, especially if it's in melee, the unit that charges is the one that gets the hit first, usually. So, if you're the one that's able to get the charge off, you get the bonus. Well, you get to take advantage of the bonus first. Yeah, no, I think something like that works quite well too. That's a bit more elegant. So I have it to specifically be a story thing. Yeah, instead of having it entirely like this faction gets an advantage against this faction, so like this one guy gets this advantage against this one guy. I think is quite a good way to do it too. Yeah, but the random feels bads are like that. Not entirely a thing of a past. Like I say, Red Rampage gives you a unit anti-chaos for a turn alongside the lance, which is honestly what you mostly use it for. Because usually anti-chaos is more than enough. But it's a lot less prominent to the point where it does feel more like seasoning than the bulk of the rules. Or if just like, sometimes the advantages and disadvantages are baked in. Like a unit with flamethrowers is going to be much better against a unit of infantry. You know, there's your flavor. It's just tactical choices. Let's still get some of this going around down this shin. It's not as exposed, but it just looks meh, untouched. I'll Yeah, that's just some game design musings. Like I say, the game is a lot better in terms of stuff like that than it certainly was back in the day. Back in the day was it was a bit of it was basically still trying to be a role playing game. It was fifth edition when we started going. Yeah, it was fifth edition. Yeah, way back in 2010, and the game has changed quite well. The fundamentals are still kind of the same, obviously, but a lot of the systems have changed enough and the design philosophy has changed enough, especially since, like, say, the beginning of 8th, that, like, the game just. It does feel more like a game for better and for worse. Like, some things are just a little, like, they feel purely mechanical sometimes. And a lot of, like, the spirit and flair is gone in a few places, but it's made the game more accessible, shall we say? Easier to pass, easy to actually start playing, easier to just pick up and play. It's it and just more generally enjoyable, less swingy, that's for sure. The only time it's ever really swingy in the current edition is if you deploy it particularly bad. But deployment is a skill. I had to learn that. And thankfully, it is something I've at least been told by my opponents that I do fairly well now. I used to suck at it. I used to lose units in the first turn because they were just completely exposed in angles that I hadn't seen. And that was a feels bad, but I also understood that it was a mistake, and I just didn't learn how to counter doing that mistake until recently. Uh, yeah, the yellow on this guy is mostly done. Might just do a little bit on the inside of his thigh there, just to add a little bit of zest. How long are we in now? Only about an hour. Yeah. At least it's done on the front side. The problem with Jetpack Marines is a lot on the back to do too. or the pairs of turbines and the thrusters I'd tend to just leave for the metallic section. Tactical meat shields, lol. Yeah. I mean, that is a thing. You know, you can shoot through uh, enemy units now, I believe, as long as they don't completely block line of sight. But like, having stuff in the way, like the amount of times I've used transport as portable terrain. It's like, okay, I don't want these guys getting shot after they get out of the vehicle, so I'll put the vehicle in between the guys and the things with the gun that might shoot them. And if you can't see him, because the transport's going to be bigger than the guys, it fit the guys inside it. I've just got a big can in the way. And yeah, yeah, you shoot you shoot the Land Raider, see what it does with your bolters. Oh, look at that, nothing. Strength 4 against toughness what? 14, I think. No, it is 12. I think. No, it is. It's something. It still wounds on a 6 either way with those numbers. So yeah, you shoot 10 shots, hit 6 of them, actually score a wound with 1, and then I'll block it with my 2-up armor save. Try something tougher next time. It's like, okay, bye. And then you just roll the transport out of the way your next turn, and you're off to the races. This tactically putting things in the way is also another thing to do. It asks your opponent, you know, find the angle. If you don't, too bad. Point your guns somewhere else. Granted, as well, I still need to hear Jason's findings on his experiments with the Kroot, because they look kind of interesting now, like mechanically. They have some defensive buffs. Like I think one of you've got characters, and apparently the Kroot carnivores, which are your main like infantry for Kroot. The guys that you think of when you think Kroot. I forget if it's either the characters have a line of text or that unit itself has a line of text where you can attach a leader per 10 guys in the unit. So if you've got a unit of 20 Kroot carnivores, you can attach 2 characters. And a lot of the characters, there's one that gives them like a feel no pain, I think. I forget if it's under a certain circumstance or just in general. And there's one that lets you play a lot with your movement. And it's just like, yeah, you can just slap both of that on a unit of 20 guys. To be fair, I think games revolving around point capture seem good to have meat shields to keep people busy. Yeah, no, literally, that is a tactical choice. That is, for me, the way I play, half of melee. Because like if you've gotten a unit tied up in melee, there's a meat shield in physically being in the way. And then there's a meat shield in that I've been charged by this thing, it won't die. And if I try and leave, it'll just chase me down and continue being in my way. Nuisance charges are absolutely a thing, and I love doing them. Crude Shaper, I bet. That's the thing. There's like 3 different types of Shaper now. There's like a War Shaper, and there's something else Shaper. There's like an assassin character that's riding on the back of a massive newt that's actually quite cool looking. Like Kroot actually like they feel like a mini faction rather than just like a unit or two that the Tau have access to now. It's quite interesting. But like it's because they're like generally like comparatively fragile. Because they're running around nude practically. And a lot of their shenanigans are based around movement and redeploying, which is quite cool. It feels like it would be tactically quite intensive. Like it would absolutely stretch your abilities to play around like the terrain and movement rules. But that's kind of like part of the appeal. When it's just like, oh, that would be a challenge. That would be cool to be able to say I can do that. Like Jason did send me the stuff from the Tau Codex for the Kroot specifically. I just haven't read it through them all. I want more of them so bad, man. I mean, they're good. They look legit at the moment. They're not like high end competitive, but you can certainly have a good time playing them. At least no one's actually. I say that like we've actually had a tournament that uses the new Tau Codex just yet. I don't believe there are any results from anything like that yet. Krutox seems fun. Yeah, the fact that you actually get the melee version that can just charge in as like a cavalry unit. They seem quite fun. And then the gun guy. And Kroot Hounds, they fucking move. From what I heard, you can absolutely like you can't attach any characters to them, but you can absolutely make them move through like certain bonuses and rules. Just huffing across the board, which can be quite useful. Because there are certain objectives that give you points for being in certain places on the board and not shooting, which, well, I guess your dogs don't have guns. I'll sure play them when you can. Yeah, and it probably wouldn't hurt having a codex that both you and Al can play. Like, you can play out of the same codex with just General Tau and Kroot. Yeah, between Kroot, Tyranids, and Demons, you're getting times with your beasties. Still need to give you a proper refresh on the game after that trial game. I think last year. Yeah. It was quite a while ago. So the offer's still on the table for like combat patrol with Nids versus what? Well, I'd say an army of your choice, really. Combat patrol has most of the meat and potatoes, just slightly different seasoning, shall we say? Right, that took a while to do all that yellow, but he's already looking a lot better. When they just go both of these, I haven't actually done their face grills, which is a travesty. It is literally their face. Doesn't need a huge amount. Just needs enough to highlight it up. Hello, Trash Movers Tal. If it's Tal versus Kroot. I mean, if you can get to him, they're Tau. That is still absolutely facts. Like I say, it's just like using the terrain to your advantage. Yeah, we will do the Leviathan set build. Okay, yeah, we'll do Space Marines versus Nids because like I've got this, obviously I've bought Leviathan. We shared Leviathan. I've got the Space Marine Combat Patrol. It is 12 guys. Terminator Captain, Terminator Librarian, 5 Terminators, 5 guys with flamethrowers against all the stuff Tyranids get. But hey, it still looks like quite a fun matchup. The only issue of it is it gives you two Terminator characters, and one Terminator unit that you could attach them to. So you've got to make a choice of which guy do I have running around on his own. And I think it would be the captain. Think. I presume the Terminator Librarian still has the same rules in the regular codex where he gives the unit sustained hits, I think. Because if that is the case, yeah, Librarian is definitely going with the shooty Terminators that I have. Because 4 Storm Bolters and Assault Cannon with sustained hits. Yeah, I'll get some shots in. There we go. That's all the yellow done on the Sanguinary Priest. Great. Speaking of, let's do the second layer on his cloak. Have a bit more of my drink. Oh, yeah, they are actually introducing like the deck of cards that gives you your secondaries, your deployments, and all of that. They are releasing another set soon based around the Pariah Nexus setting. That does change up how the game plays a little bit, but it's optional. Like you choose which deck you use. So that it's similar to like the seasons from last edition, but it's an option rather than being the hard and fast. Yeah, I like games which are built for playing each other. It's fair all around. Everything else is on me. Yeah, that is the advantage of Combat Patrol. Like they're not perfectly balanced, but having the lists intended to be played against just other combat patrols does it like removes a lot of the headache of like, especially when you're learning like building a list and countering certain things and all that. It's like you know what you're going up against, and there's a few decisions made for you to save you some headache. Other than that, it does just play like the main game. I've compared it to like say in a card game where they just give you pre-constructed decks. It's basically that, but for Warhammer. And I enjoy the concept. I've not actually played Combat Patrol because I do like list building, but I am more than happy to. And I have I may have bought and played with units purely for the fact that, like, okay, this is in the Combat Patrol, so if I get this, I have the Combat Patrol for this faction on hand. Like the Berserks for the Votan. But that's also because the Votan have like 5 units. So it's not very difficult to end up having to use something that's in the Combat Patrol, because, like, well, that's my option, so I'll use it. I do wish it had the bikes in the Votan one. I like the bikes, but the bikes can be played in the main game quite easily too. Spiker Dwarves. Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did strangely well with well, it still does fairly well with like structure decks. Like I remember it being its own format where like you would get free, everyone would get free of the same uh starter deck, structure deck, whatever they're called. And the challenge was, okay, that's your carpool builder deck out of the 3 copies of the same structure deck. I'm just going to bounce between using those words. And I quite like that concept. Like when Magic does precons, is what they're called in Magic. They only ever really do them for Commander now, and it's a way to introduce new cards in a similar way to how Yu-Gi-Oh uses it to introduce some new cards. But like when it did it for things other than Commander, they purposefully like made them really boring because it's like, no, these are for the new players. If we made them too good, experienced players will snap them up before like the newbies will be able to get their hands on them. It's like, okay, but had you maybe just considered making more of them? Like if you're making the game look boring. Like the Planeswalker decks, that's what they were called. And then they just stopped making them because, hey, guess what? People weren't buying them because all the newbies were playing Commander. Because that was the advertised casual format, and a lot of newbies do not want to play competitive. Crazy that. Okay, so second base coat went on really quick and basically got that plum burgundy up to par. Whilst I've got it, I might as well just do the tassely ropes on this guy with the same colour. Granted, in terms of Magic, it's already moved from Thunder Junction onto Modern Horizons 3. And I'm not seeing anything that makes me want to play Modern just yet. But even though it's Modern, the set is designed to introduce cards to the format Modern, which is a competitive format that uses older cards. They're still making 4 Commander precons because Commander also just makes more money. Granted, one of them is an energy one, which does look kind of neat. One of them is 5 color Eldrazi, which has some interesting cards. I forget the other two. Uh, Literally, actually, I've forgotten what the other two are. I swear I heard Burgundy. Burgundy, Burgundy. If you want to try like steeping a burger, Saying that out loud, I can't recommend it. It just sounds like you get little flecks of grease floating at the top, which is it just sounds gross, man. It sounds nasty. There we go, and that's his rope painted. Nice and simple. Just some strings. What time we got left? What time is it? We've still got half an hour. Jeez. What do I do next? What do I do next? Do I tidy up the captain because that's just easy to do with the yellow. I will get the yellow contrast and make those gradients a bit more gradienty. Because mixing purple with yellow is a good way to get something closer to brown. I have learnt this the hard way. But they're just both just some nice colours. I do not wish to create a chromatic grey today. Like, thinking on it, I know I had this conversation with Jason. If they gave me something that made pirates playable in modern outside of just play for Ragavan. You know, the goddamn monkey that's just been an $80 card since it got printed a few years ago. That would get me playing modern a bit more. How far is Yellow Boy being from done? Considering once I've done this step on his armor, it'll mostly just be edge highlights for the vast majority of the model. He's not far done. Not far from being done. The white on the... I've got way too much on my brush here, just a second. The white on his cape... Ooh, there's a bit of a hair coming off. On his cape and the shield, we'll need a little bit of touching up. Then there's the metallics. Edge highlighting the yellow is also a factor. And that'll take a little while, but the bulk is done outside of doing details. Pirates deserve better. They do. Heck, the energy card had a pirate, but it was it doesn't actually do anything that interacts with pirates. It was just a card that happened to be a pirate, which is annoying. We got some really good stuff for Commander, but that's the only place that's legal, and I ain't playing Legacy. God, no. I do not want to buy into MTGO. I like Magic. I don't like it enough to do stuff like that anymore. I just want to play my scallywags and my robots. I mean, there's some decent artifact stuff, but like, I don't know. A lot of the artifact stuff has been solved in Magic for that long. It's just not interesting. Or like a new artifact card comes out and everyone's immediately like, oh, it doesn't really work for this. Ignore it. It's like, okay, entire game piece just ignored. That's the hard part with Magic, where it's just like you do just ignore half the stuff that comes out just because it's not quite good enough. I have definitely been preferring the structure for stuff like Warhammer as of late, just because it's like, okay, you can pick certain factions are considered better and worse, but you can make them work. You can make any faction work. I just started Minecraft earlier and I found a pirate ship as soon as I spawned in. So it's my base now. Just wanted to share that. I think I remember us finding one when we played with the others not, well, let's say not too long ago. It was actual years ago at this point now. I think they got like little treasure chests hiding in them. So you get some fancy stuff. But yeah, if they made a viable pirate deck function in modern, I'd consider it. It would depend on how much it would cost because boy howdy is like Warhammer's expensive, but at least I get cool toys. When Magic's expensive, it's like, well, that rectangle's going in the pile. It's like, yeah, it feels a little less worth it to pay that much on a piece of cardboard than it does a toy. So I guess that's why I'm just to mainly keep the again Commander. I've got some expensive Commander cards, admittedly, but like I still play the format casually as is intended. And quite often when a new combo does come out, it's like, yeah, but does it inspire me? No, I'll just carry on doing my thing. Okay, bye. What's on the line? Absolutely nothing. But that's something that has started confusing me with Magic. Where like the competitive scene, like there's advantages. Obviously, I've had the same journey with Warhammer, where like there's absolutely there's value in trying to play a game well. Absolutely, it could be really enjoyable. But there's the weird thing with Magic at the moment, where the competitive scene there's that much of a financial demand to be consistently competitive in Magic, where like spending the amount of money that is asked does not like it was a bit of a scam, it feels, to begin with, because like okay, you could spend this amount of money and the value is in either selling the stuff after you're done with it and recouping most of the value, or you could do well enough and start winning tournaments and getting prize money. And it's like both of those arguments have so much less to stand on right now. The competitive scene, like the big tournaments of prize money, are either in America, and there's a lot more expenses in terms of traveling, participating, being there, just in general, even if you are already in America, or like cards are just worth that much less now that they depreciate in value a lot quicker too. But by the time you could be done with a card and you're trying to sell it off, you're recouping a lot less of what you originally spent. Where it's just like, yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Does it spark joy? Exactly. Does it compel me? Whereas it's like I've asked it a couple of times, and to the people's credit that I have asked, they have done their best to try and find something that might jive with me. And it always ends up being like, okay, yeah, mechanically that sounds like it does the thing, but conceptually, eh, it just feels like another deck. Like the only reason like pirates conceptually jive with me is just because like I don't know, I just really like pirates and robots, which is why I like the Transformers decks because that is something I want to get onto. Actually, been reading the Transformers comic. Uh, well, but like I feel compelled to make those decks because I like those characters and those themes. It clicks a little button in my brain. It's like, oh, I actually really want that. But like, there's just yeah, and especially when Magic creatively is starting to feel a little bit more watered down. It just happens a lot less often that there's a deck that's like, ooh, I really want to build that. That feels like it jives with me. That feels like it feels like a good costume I could wear, if you get the analogy. I get so sick of competitive scenes like theirs being good skillfully and being good because it's the best unit and won't be nerfed anytime soon. Eh, thankfully, that's less of a thing in Warhammer. Like I say, this guy went from 90 to 100 points pretty recently. He is still worth running, granted, but he is no longer he's not backbreaking. He's a support for a unit. There's less of that in Warhammer now, especially because like they actively do balance the game. They actually like communicate with they Warhammer themselves. They don't run official tournaments, but they do talk a lot with the people that do run their own tournaments. They're analyzing games and game, and that is how we get the balanced data sets. And there's not well, every time there's been a when there was one twist, it was Venture and Necrons.
had just had these not too long ago, beforehand, had just had their new codex. Yeah, you speak generally, of course. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's true in a lot of games.
They need curating. But yeah, Necrons had just had their new codex, and because of that, they didn't get any points debuffs because it's like, that's a bit of a feels bad. They just got their book, and why would we immediately, debuff it? So the Necrons got to run around with some pretty strong rules for a little while before the ban hammer. Well, not the ban hammer. The balance hammer eventually did hit them. Oh, I've gone robot. My audio is wacky. I don't know what to do about that, especially this late into the stream. Yeah, there we go. That's what that needed. I needed just a little bit of white on that shoulder pad. Hopefully that eases up soon. Because otherwise, oh, it fixed itself. Sweet, it did. Might have just been a random bump in. It's just internet things. I don't want to go into work brain. Yeah, yeah. If a game isn't actively being curated to be balanced, and people are just running around with the strongest thing, because that is just like the game is incentivizing it if it's the strongest thing to run around with, and it's just nothing's been curated yet. That can absolutely kill a game. That is a little issue with Magic as well at the moment. There's not nearly as many. There's not as much curation. And it can be really bad in Yu-Gi-Oh, to be fair, where it's just like sometimes you just see something come out and it's like, okay, I'll wait a little bit for that to get banned, and then I'll start playing again. And lo and behold, it happens. It's like, okay, thank you, because it's FOMO in a way, especially in a card game. Well, especially in these sorts of games, because it can happen. It has happened beforehand, but before, like a new super strong unit comes out, everyone rushes to get it because that's a new thing, and then that's a new thing that's really strong. I want to play that. Let me go get it, and then it gets nerfed, and now no one's playing it. Looking at you, Space Marine Desolator Squad. Like it's its own form of FOMO in my mind. Like you can just not play that unit. You don't need it. Slow down. Did you ever play Duel Links? I think I tried. I remember if it's what I'm thinking it was literally just the mobile client for like mobile phones just ported onto Steam. So I tried it for like half an hour and then I stopped. It's like it was so ugly to look at because it was like I say, it was just literally the mobile phone UI just on my laptop screen and just having these black bars. Well, they weren't black; they just filled it in with some like cybery texture, just taking up like a third of my screen, just filling up that empty space on the sides. I have to be able to look at a game in order to enjoy it. Is my logic. Like if a game is just, I hate to say ugly, but if a game is just ugly or badly laid out, that like I don't want to look at it, I'm just not gonna. Like if it sounds really like vain saying it out loud, or at least like shallow saying it out loud, like no, if I can't look at it, I can't enjoy it. Like if my eyes are just like, no, stop. Like ugly can be done in a way that's interesting to look at. I'm not saying ugly, ugly. Like it has to be pretty to look at. It has to be passable. Like I have to be able to look at it, understand what I'm looking at it, to the point where looking at it isn't effort. Like I have to constantly like run my eyes around trying to find the right button to or figure out which button it is I need to press. That's just annoying. But that's also an entire conversation. Also, I just ended up doing his cape without really thinking. It needs a little bit of tidying up. There's some places where the white got where it shouldn't really have, but that we can fix that. Just reapplying some of the same goop. I think Duel Links isn't that the one where like you pick like a character as well, and you got like a passive ability or an activatable ability based on who you picked? Because I do watch a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh content, and that does they do occasionally bring it up. Eldritch Horror in a nutshell. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if I can't comprehend it, I can't play it. Right, just gonna pop in. If I've already got the white art, I'm just gonna work on his shield a tiny bit. Time around. Okay. Yeah, I could probably fit in one more little thing for tonight. I'm also just messing up the black border, but black doesn't have a hard time going over white, does it? There. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's not a bad spot. It's yeah. I will touch up the cape a little bit. It's where's the apothecary white? Behind my pot of water. I need more shelves. That's what I need. I've got too many pots of paint. Man, I am seeing the delay on stream looking between my phone and OBS. Doesn't seem to be much I can do about that. Yes, let's use your base like a palette. And just put in a little bit more. That was not on screen. For granted, how the hell? Yeah, let's just put that in. Increase the variance and shades on this a little bit. Get more gradients. Helps make the white look whiter. Gonna load up Master Duel anyway. I got the login jewels, see what's going on. Yeah, I still, I still log into Master Duel occasionally. I've been trying Snake Eyes Rescue Ace as a deck. Yeah, the delay's huge. Yeah, that's a very. I've had issues playing with that just because it's a lot of button clicks. The most complex decks in Yu-Gi-Oh seems to be the best ones, unfortunately. Can you send me a speed test after stream? I'm curious. Okay. To be fair, it's actually showing it on OBS. It's showing a 27-second delay on OBS, so I think it might be the software doing it on purpose. It started at 5 at the start of the stream. Granted, a delay, it's not a huge deal. It only really messes with like how quickly I respond to chat. So it's not a huge issue. Granted, what am I looking at? 91, well, around about 90,000 kbps. Don't know if that's a factor. It's 0.3% of my CPU. Yeah. Snake Eye Rescue Race. I still go back to Heroes. I can play Heroes all day. As repetitive as the deck can be, I've played the deck enough to where I can still rank fairly decently with it. I just enjoy the deck, and plus we got new cards for it. The new Wingman Infernal Rage, the new Neos. Wait, yeah, let's just get less of that along the edge. I think didn't get it on camera too well, but there's the cape currently drying, and we'll probably get an additional highlight after the stream. Just flap it in the wind. Not touched the underside of it because, like, when am I ever going to see it? Snake Eyes looks cool as heck. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Ah, there we go. It it is cool. Um, It doesn't really have an identity outside of it does stuff that Yu-Gi-Oh cards do, and it's complicated between the Snake Eyes Diabell Star engine. But like honestly, I don't understand it. I have been pressing buttons when I play it, still win. Maybe that's a bad sign, but if I'm still ranking up, I'm obviously, as we were saying earlier, I'm not at the parity of playing against people of an equal skill level. But Yu-Gi-Oh is one of those games where, like, especially at this time of the month when the season's close to ending, if you can tolerate playing enough games to rank up, uh, anything gold and below, you're basically either playing against kids or bots. So easy, easy time. Like the bots, there used to be bots that could pull off like first turn kill decks, but they got better at detecting those. So now the bots just sit on ladder and grind all day without actually winning games. Because if you can win half your games from your opponent conceding from having to wait, you still rank up. I'll have to build something for it. Yeah, I mean, Snake Eyes, it took me a long ass time building up the required gems and things to build it because it's a lot of ultra rares. But I found a way to make Magnet Warriors work, Super Quants kind of work, because I found someone else had already figured out an engine that works well alongside them. Heroes, obviously, but that's the deck I'm the most competent with. What else? What else? What else? What else? I forget. Oh, fucking, what are they called? The race cars. FA? That's not a good deck either, but it's fun. I get to put the Vroom Vrooms on the table. Right. Yeah, I've just put the model down and stopped talking. I'm going to tidy up the shoulder pad because I went a little overboard on the white in some areas. Whilst I've got the Apothecary White here in front of me, let's soften up some edges. Granted, a lot of this is going to be hidden under the black checkers, but if I know it looks good now, I know it'll look good underneath the checkers. There we go. Just a little bit. Doesn't need a lot. And just wipe away a little bit with my finger to make the volumetric highlight. To be fair, Ryan, if you're wanting a deck that would appeal to you, they've done something interesting. If you remember, like Gazelle and Berthamet from like the old stuff, they've basically made a Chimera deck that revolves around new versions of those guys, and it's actually pretty decent. They made a free to play event where like one of the pre-built decks that you could run if you couldn't like afford to make a deck for it was those guys, and I gave it a spin, and it's fun, honestly. Like that deck was quite fun. It's another deck that could kind of it was a lot easier to understand compared to Snake Eyes, that's for sure. Like playing it a couple of times, I knew what I was doing. I knew what fusions I wanted out and when, because it is a mostly fusion deck. And the support cards give you nice little bonuses for being in the graveyard, i.e., having already used them as fusion material. So I could recommend that. Plus, having Super Poly and there's a Guardian Chimera, I think it's called, is really good for like, oh, look, your opponent's got this massive monster that's like immune to destruction and can't be targeted by effects. Neat, I fused it into a monster for myself by I just need Super Poly set or in hand if it's my turn and a card to discard because Super Poly asks for you to discard. Go off my king. That's a nice Borreload dragon you have there. Great, let us return the lighting to, because that looks to our natural lighting. That makes the burgundy look a little closer. But yeah, let's get these guys a little bit more on screen. So that's going to probably be tonight because we're coming up to 10 too, and I've got some Discord messages to get back to. So I'll watch a video of that when I finish. That sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll see if I can't find you one. Yeah, that is going to be. I think that's going to be tonight at this point. Let's put these guys closer enough together. We've gotten a pretty good amount done on these. And like I say, these will be finished up, and this guy, the Biologus, will also be done in the background for this month. And then by the time we come back at the end of next month, so end of June, I'm still deciding what to paint for that stream and have done for that month, to be honest. It could be Death Company. Some painting some my jump pack Death Company could be pretty good. They kind of deserve it because those guys absolutely swing for the fences and annihilate stuff when they can. So I think they deserve it. Yeah, no, I'll say it. We'll paint Death Company next. My 5 Death Company with Power Fist, Plasma Pistols, and there's a Thunder Hammer in there too. And then what will be left, depending on the units that I'm keeping and swapping out. A Ball Predator could be going into the list. Some Aggressors could be going into the list, which if they do, the Eradicators and Scouts will be going out. Then it'll be the other half of the unit. These guys join. Blade Guard are pretty much, well, they were done at the start, so I never really counted those, but I might just touch up that unit in some downtime anyway and show it off, because there is a 6th member that needs painting. And he's not worth dedicating a whole stream or month to. The Dreadnought, how did I forget the Dreadnought and the Thunderstrike? Those will be projects. Those are definitely worth a stream in a month. All right, good. Thanks for the stream. Good work on the painting. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so next we'll paint Death Company. And we're still on track for this month, thankfully. Hey, it's been a bit more of a chill one. It's basically been me and you talking together, Ryan, but thank you for showing up either way. This is at least, like I say, these streams are more to keep me on the path than like anything special. So yeah, thank you for coming down tonight, and that will be everything. Thank you, you.